Hey, and welcome back to Liberal Breakdown. We've got some breaking news that is actually holding someone in power accountable for once. A federal judge has ruled that there's probable cause to charge Trump-era officials with criminal contempt. Why? Because they defied a court order and kept deporting people anyway. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg, yeah, not exactly a household name, but remember it, issued a very clear court order back in March. He said the federal government needed to stop using the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelan immigrants who were being accused, not proven accused, of being gang members. Now, this law, the Alien Enemies Act, it's from 1798, and it was originally designed for use in wartime against citizens of enemy nations, like actual enemies during a declared war, not asylum-seeking Venezuelans fleeing instability. But the Trump administration, they just kept deporting people anyway, and not quietly, they were literally boasting about it, sending people to El Salvador where they ended up in places like the CKT mega prison, which has been condemned by human rights groups for horrific conditions. So now, Judge Boasberg has come back with the legal equivalent of, are you serious right now? He ruled that there is probable cause to hold officials in criminal contempt for willfully ignoring a federal court order.
A judge says there is probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt. This is in regards to the case of deporting Venezuelan migrants, despite that judge's order in his court to turn the plane around. CNN chief legal correspondent Paula Reed joins me now. Paula, what exactly is the judge saying?
Look, Dana, this is huge. We've been waiting for this opinion. Now, the judge here is still deciding punishment and the next steps. He is giving the Justice Department a chance to weigh in here. But this case, this question has, as you know, become a political flashpoint. President Trump has repeatedly attacked this judge, James Boasberg, even calling for him to be impeached. Now, much of this started last month on March 15th. The president had invoked the Alien Enemies Act to facilitate deportations of Venezuelan migrants. The government alleges were affiliated with a gang. Litigation commenced over the weekend, and these planes that were already carrying migrants were eventually grounded. But then when the judge ordered these to be flown back to the United States, they continued from Honduras, where they had stopped, onto El Salvador. Now, the judge has suggested that this was a deliberate attempt to defy his order.
That's a big deal. Criminal contempt isn't just a slap on the wrist. That could mean prosecution, fines, even jail time. He's also pushing for the administration to bring back the people they illegally deported so they can challenge what happened to them. Imagine being deported to a dangerous prison in another country, just for a judge to later say, oh yeah, that was illegal. Here's the bottom line. This isn't just a gotcha moment. This is about the rule of law. The Trump administration, like over and over, acted like they were above the courts, above the Constitution, and above basic human rights. But what this shows is that the courts are starting to push back. It's saying, no, you don't get to ignore orders you don't like. That's not how democracy works. That's how authoritarianism works. And let's not gloss over the bigger picture. This is part of a pattern. From the Muslim ban to family separations, the Trump-era immigration policies were cruel, reckless, and often illegal. We need accountability. And yeah, I know, and it's a long road, but this could actually be a step in the right direction.
GOP Senator Chuck Grassley faced questions from constituents at a town hall in Fort Madison, Iowa, over the Trump administration mistakenly deporting a Maryland man to a notorious Salvadorian mega prison.
Are you going to bring that guy back from El Salvador? Yeah. Why not?
Well, because that's not a power of Congress.
Supreme Court said to bring him back.
Judges are,
Yeah.
and the president is upholding the Constitution.
He's defying the
You're on the
Constitution.
Judiciary Committee.
Trump don't care.
Guatemala or El Salvador is an independent country. The president
Speak up, please. We can't hear you.
The president of that country is not subject to our U.S. Supreme Court.
I'm pissed.
We would like to know what you, as the people, the Congress, who are supposed to rein in this dictator, what are you going to do about it? These people have been sentenced to life imprisonment in a foreign country with no due process. Our government cannot do anything.
Trump isn't a king.
Why won't you do your job, Senator?
Yeah.
So, picture this. Senator Chuck Grassley, longtime Republican, big voice on immigration, is doing a town hall in Fort Madison, Iowa, when the Trump administration's immigration record comes back to bite him in the most public way. Let's break it down. The case in question is about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man who had been legally living in the U.S. He wasn't undocumented. He wasn't a threat. He had been granted legal stay. Everything was in order. And yet, thanks to what's being called an administrative error, he was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, a country he wasn't supposed to be sent to under his legal status. Not only was this an outright violation of his rights, but it put his life at risk. El Salvador is facing violence and instability, and this guy, who had a life in the U.S., was basically dumped there without warning. And what has the Trump-era immigration machine done to fix this mistake? Nothing. So back to Fort Madison. Grassley gets called out by constituents at the town hall. People are rightfully outraged, asking him what's being done to bring Kilmar back, or at the very least to acknowledge that this was wrong. And what does Grassley say? He says Congress can't do anything about it, that since El Salvador isn't under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Supreme Court, his hands are tied. Like, really? People weren't having it. There were jeers from the crowd. And honestly, that's fair, because here's a sitting senator, the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, basically saying, well, not my problem. This isn't about legal semantics. It's about a real human being who was failed by our system and who deserves justice. Now let's zoom out a bit. This isn't just a one-off mistake. It's part of a pattern we saw over and over again under Trump. Dehumanizing immigrants, breaking up families, skipping due process, and then acting shocked when there's blowback. And when things go wrong, everyone suddenly throws up their hands and says, well, what can we do? The answer is a lot. Congress can push for accountability. They can demand better oversight of ICE and CBP. They can advocate for bringing people like Kilmar home, especially when the government is the one that messed up. But when elected officials just sit there and act like it's all out of their control, that's not leadership, that's cowardice. So yeah, the people in that Iowa town hall had every right to be upset. And honestly, we all should be. If someone with legal status can just be disappeared by a broken system, what does that say about our democracy? Let me know what you think in the comments. Should there be consequences for wrongful deportations like this? And what should people like Grassley actually be doing? Until next time, stay loud, stay informed.